Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are tackling what is arguably one of the greatest medical mysteries in human history: aging. For centuries, right, we've just accepted aging as this inevitable decline, a one-way street that we're all forced to drive down. But what if groundbreaking science is showing us how we might actually put that process in reverse at the cellular level?
Okay, let's dive right into this, because this is where the entire paradigm completely shifts. Look, we all have a birthday. Your chronological age is a fixed reality, and unfortunately, you just can't negotiate with the calendar. But what if the rate at which your actual cells age isn't fixed at all? What if it's highly flexible and entirely up for negotiation?
To really wrap our heads around this, we have to separate chronological age from biological age. Biological age is basically a measurement of how well your body is humming along under the hood at a microscopic cellular level. It's dictated by the health of your DNA, your cellular repair systems, your mitochondria, the whole shebang. And cutting-edge science is showing us that while time keeps ticking, your biological age is actually highly modifiable. You can literally be biologically younger than your chronological age. But to pull that off, we have to fight two massive biological villains.
Villain number one is telomere shortening. Think of telomeres as kind of like the little plastic tips on the ends of your shoelaces, the aglets, but these are protecting your chromosomes. Every single time your cells divide to repair your body, these protective caps get just a tiny bit shorter. Over time, thanks to oxidative stress and just regular daily wear and tear, they become critically short. And when that happens, the cell loses its ability to replicate, which is heavily tied to chronic disease, fatigue, and ultimately a decreased lifespan.
Which brings us to the second and honestly perhaps even more terrifying villain, cellular senescence. When a cell takes on too much damage or its telomeres get too short, it doesn't always just quietly pass away. Sometimes it enters this state of senescence. Researchers actually call these zombie cells because they permanently stop dividing, but they refuse to die. And just like zombies, they just sit around, taking up valuable space and causing absolute havoc in your tissue. And how exactly do they cause that havoc? Well, these zombie cells secrete a highly toxic cocktail known as the senescence-associated secretory phenotype, or SASP for short. They're basically spitting out pro-inflammatory cytokines, matrix-degrading enzymes, and oxidative stress molecules. They transmit these inflammatory signals that actively damage the healthy cells nearby, spreading dysfunction like wildfire. This drives a compounding cycle of degeneration we call inflammaging. It's what slows down our recovery, wrecks our joints, and ages our skin.
For decades, treating this just meant managing the symptoms. We were just putting Band-Aids on it. But then in 2020, researchers at Tel Aviv University and the Shamir Medical Center published a truly landmark clinical trial. And they didn't test some crazy new experimental drug or a genetic hack on these healthy adults over 64. They used hyperbaric oxygen therapy, or HBOT, in a highly specific way. And I'm telling you, the results completely stunned the scientific and anti-aging communities.
Now, these participants didn't just hop into a chamber once or twice and call it a day. They underwent a very specific, rigorous protocol, 60 sessions over the course of about 3 months. This wasn't a quick-fix magic pill. It was a sustained, targeted environmental intervention. And this repeated exposure was absolutely key to unlocking biological changes that had literally never been observed in humans using non-invasive methods.
Are you ready for these results? Because they are wild. Telomere length, those protective shoelace caps that supposedly inevitably shrink as we age, well, they didn't just stop shrinking. They actually grew back by over 20%. And in some specific immune cells, they lengthened by an absolutely staggering 38%. To put that into perspective, the absolute best lifestyle interventions out there, like a perfect diet and flawless exercise routine, might give you maybe a 2 to 5% improvement. A 38% increase essentially means they reversed one of the core fundamental mechanisms of aging.
Wait, it actually gets better. Remember those toxic zombie cells we talked about? The ones driving all that inflammaging? Following this protocol, the researchers observed a decrease in senescent T helper cells by up to 37%. HBOT was actively functioning as a senolytic therapy. Basically, it helped the body's immune system finally step up and clear out those aging, dysfunctional cells that were polluting the tissues. It's like taking out the cellular trash.
The implications here represent a profound, earth-shattering shift in science. As the lead researcher, Dr. Shai Efrati, stated perfectly, for the first time in humans, we've found a way to actually reverse the biological clock. This was the exact moment that longevity science jumped from just theory, or, curing mice in a lab, straight into measurable, real-world human biology.
So how is this actually happening?
Well, the mechanism relies on a brilliant, kind of mind-bending biological concept called the hyperoxic-hypoxic paradox. It sounds totally backwards, but by flooding the body with an immense amount of oxygen, we can actually trick the cells into thinking they are starving for oxygen, and that perceived starvation throws them into a massive overdrive state of repair.
Here's the mechanical breakdown of how it works. You're sitting in a pressurized chamber, breathing enriched oxygen. Because the atmospheric pressure is cranked up to 1.3 to 2.0 times normal sea level, the laws of physics just take over. The oxygen doesn't just bind to your red blood cells like normal. It physically dissolves directly into your blood plasma. You are effectively pushing 10 to 15 times more oxygen into your bloodstream, forcing it deep into tissues that normally get barely any blood flow at all.
But the real magic, the magic is all in the fluctuation. First, you get that massive, incredible oxygen intake. But the second the session ends and you return to normal room air, your cells experience this sudden, severe drop. Because they were just swimming in extreme oxygen, your body totally freaks out. It perceives this drop as a relative hypoxia, a low oxygen crisis, even though your actual oxygen levels are totally fine. And that perceived crisis, that's what flips the switch on powerful adaptive survival and repair gene.
This paradox triggers some absolute biological heavy hitters. You get HIF-1 alpha, a factor that drives our deep cellular response to stress. You get VGF, which actually stimulates the growth of brand new blood vessels, a process called angiogenesis. You get sirtuins, those famous longevity proteins that protect our DNA, and you get a massive systemic boost in your body's own antioxidant enzymes to fight off oxidative stress. Literally, these are the exact same regenerative pathways you trigger with intense, grueling exercise or strict fasting, just scaled way, way up.
And here is the absolute kicker. With all these repair genes activated, your body basically calls in the construction crew. HBOT has been shown to increase circulating stem cells by up to 8 times. 8 times. These are the blank slate cells that travel directly to damaged tissues, transform into whatever your body desperately needs, and literally rebuild and regenerate your organs from the inside out. So what does all this cellular reconstruction actually mean for you? Real-world benefits. In the brain, we see increased cerebral blood flow, which dials up memory, attention, and executive function. In the vascular system, angiogenesis is physically building new capillaries, improving your circulation long after the therapy is done. And for the skin and muscle, it boosts collagen, elasticity, and actively fights sarcopenia, which is that stubborn age-related muscle loss. Lowering biological age isn't just about a number on a page, folks. It is about physically reclaiming your cognitive and physical performance.
And look, this is exactly why the whole conversation around health span is evolving so fast right now. We are looking directly at the future of longevity. We're finally moving past that old, tired model of just slapping band-aids on temporary symptoms as our bodies break down. Instead, we're entering the era of regenerative cellular medicine. Optimizing the health of your DNA, your mitochondria, and your cellular environment, that is the ultimate strategy for long-term vitality.
Which leaves us with a really fascinating, beautiful thought to chew on. We have spent decades and billions upon billions of dollars trying to treat the outward surface-level symptoms of aging. But what if the ultimate cure, the real secret to reclaiming our youth and resilience, is simply teaching ourselves how to breathe again? Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this explainer. I really hope you found this science as absolutely mind-blowing as I do. Keep learning, keep exploring, and I'll catch you next time.